Okay, welcome Multnomah Village to week 82, Justice for Qadira.
Good morning, Multnomah Village. Folks, you know why we continue to get out here? What happened to us, our family, and our daughter was just plain wrong. And it's even worse that it was prosecuted by your authorities. So we keep on getting out here letting you know that this was not okay with us. This has never been okay with us, and this will never be okay with us. So we're going to keep on getting out here and telling you about, for those of you who are hearing this protest or this rally for the first time, folks, we were the victims of...
it's a huge federal crime, and we need to talk about that in this city because we cannot have our elected officials and our trusted institutions being used to cover up crimes against, anybody, but especially American citizens. So,
and especially children.
Right. We're supposed to have rights here. What I want to talk about today is I just think here in Oregon, what we are witnessing, especially with this rally going on week after week after week, is a huge disregard for the rights of women and girls, talking about biological women and girls. And I'm bringing that up because, we're out here fighting for a little girl, and she's being ignored. So she's been ignored for 16 years. It's totally not acceptable. And, shame on all of our elected officials and law enforcement for, throwing their ring in the hat, or throwing their hat in the ring with some pretty nasty, evil people. There's no excuse for this behavior, and eventually, we are going to have to talk about this. It's not just in regards to what happened to our daughter, though. I don't want this story to die, so I'm going to hum a few bars, but some information about what happened up there at Nike came out recently, and I just feel like, with the news cycle, one mass shooting after another, and of course, the violence always gets, it takes up all the airwaves, right? We've been out here for 2 years, and nobody will even write one tiny article about us because, peaceful protests, people who actually
engage in that,
which me and my husband refer to what we're doing up here as nonviolent conflict resolution, because we do intend to resolve this conflict, but we intend to do it peacefully. They don't put that on the news. So don't tell me that the media is not trying to fuel violence, not just in this state, but all over the globe. Because I just think it's really interesting. All you got to do is pick up a gun or break some windows or whatever, and boom, you get your 5 minutes of fame. So I want to hum a few bars of this article, though, because like I said, I just think that there is an abusive pattern here in Portland, especially when it comes to the rights of women and girls. I talked about this downtown last week. I was contacted by a women's group. They did want to come out and stand with us, but they got back to me and said they're afraid they'll be beaten in the streets. So that's what's going on right now in America. Women are afraid to even stand up for an abused child because they're afraid they'll be beaten in the streets because there's just roaming thugs and that's allowed. So I want to hum a few bars of this article, though, because, this goes all the way up to the top, right? This abuse that we're seeing here of women, because this article barely got any attention. Female Nike employees allege details of sexual harassment, discrimination, and newly unsealed documents. My husband and I have talked about this before. There's a really terrible culture up there at Nike of bullying and harassment that goes on the campus, and it's just simply allowed. My husband was subject to it. I'm sure the women up there it's probably even worse, if it could be any worse. But I just want to hum a few bars of this and talk about it a little bit more. New details are coming to light in the midst of Nike's ongoing gender discrimination suit. A series of documents highlighting more details about the allegations of gender discrimination and sexual harassment at Nike have been unsealed to the public, following a legal push from various publications with an interest in covering the news. The documents, which include thousands of pages of records of handwritten and typed surveys and interviews allege a culture of harassment and intimidation for female employees working in what some described as Nike's Boys Club. The initial gender discrimination lawsuit was filed in 2018, less than 4 months after the New York Times reported on the survey, which was delivered to then CEO Mark Parker. One survey respondent said a male employee once told her to dress sexier and show some skin, though she said she did not report it at the time because she felt afraid and intimidated. Another survey response described seeing a higher-ranking male employee receiving oral sex from a lower-ranked female employee on campus. And another respondent detailed other instances of harassment, including sloppy drunk men putting their arms around waitresses or female coworkers while traveling for work. Nike is a boys' club, this respondent alleged. Females at this company have felt very little power to change a culture and environment that has been and continues to be disrespectful to women. I'm going to leave it at that because we've talked about this before, what my husband experienced up at Nike. Minorities and women at that company are treated terribly. And I think that that's pretty much a pattern we see throughout, most of our global corporations. The people that are primarily abused, the people that are primarily abused in these overseas factories are women. I'm not saying men aren't being abused too, but it's primarily women. And, there's rapings, there's beatings, there's all kinds of things going on out of sight, out of mind. But I think this protest here is a good litmus test about where we are in the United States with women's rights. And I'm talking about biological women because that's what I am. And I think that there's a real problem here. And I think me and my husband do a good job highlighting that every week. I think one of the reasons that our entire situation, from what happened to my husband at Nike to our daughter being burned, the reason it's being ignored is, once again, I'm very aware that there's a lot of people that just do not like a strong female voice anywhere. So, I know I'm a problem here at this rally. That's one reason they don't respond, because they just don't even want to talk to us at all.
Another reason is the fact that the crux of our issue is a little girl, and she's a little girl of color, and apparently nobody cares about that subject.
Right. That subject's we're always sweeping that under the rug, and there's a lot of abuse happening, to women of color all over the world. So, and now, since there's no clear definition of woman, it's very difficult to even try to protect that class. Right? So that's a big issue for me and my husband. We've been being asked how we feel about that. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that there are strong protections for women. Women need safe spaces.
Biological women.
They do. So
call them cis, whatever you want to call them. They are a different class of any other individual.
Right.
So,
and this is who we're standing up for here, and this is who's being ignored. So I want to make sure that that's very clear. It's our daughter that's being ignored. So we need to talk about, for the last 16 years, the fact that this has gone on and on and on, and that these people were allowed to do what they did. Actually, in the past week, I've been having a lot of flashbacks of what happened, and just thinking about back to that night, finding her in that basement naked and burned up, taking her to the hospital, them lying straight to our face, sending us home with our daughter who was brutally assaulted, no medication, no instructions, no help whatsoever. There was just a Salem couple, I read on KATU, they were just arrested because their child died at home. I don't know how, I don't know the ins and outs of that case, but they were picked up for criminal mistreatment. When I read that article, honestly, it gave me chills, because that could have been me and my husband. I mean, the hospital sent us home with our fatally injured child. The fact that she has survived this is huge. And
that's just a miracle in itself, folks.
The fact that they haven't gone in to look into the people that did this, that is so wrong on so many levels. And the fact that we've been stripped of our rights, as tax-paying citizens, just because somebody who was well-connected abused our child, that's also wrong. So, I mean, these are things we need to keep going over and going over and going over, because our society doesn't work when people have no means to fair redress. And I'm sorry, but the gun violence I think is, these are the consequences. People get frustrated. They go and pick up guns. They don't see anybody modeling any other way. Certainly this protest isn't held up, in our community or anywhere else for that matter as like, oh, this is what you should do instead of go get a gun and kill people. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. And I don't know if it's because it's me and my husband delivering that message, or it's because we're talking about, a little biological black girl or what's going on exactly. But every time I turn around, you get instant fame when you commit violence. It's just shocking to me. Like it's always reported on. And the more we double down on nonviolent conflict resolution, the more,
we are ignored.
We are ignored. And I just find that to be a very interesting phenomenon, in a society that's saying, oh, we want this gun violence to stop.
Yeah, there's too much of it, right?
We're so concerned about it. Oh, whatever will we do? Well, you could possibly,
make sure that your systems are working properly, like your court system, like your hospitals. Those things are not working. We're out here reporting to you right now that those systems are not doing what they are supposed to be doing.
And what about also highlighting people who use other means to resolve their issues? I mean, whatever you think about this protest, the fact of the matter is for 16 years, this entire neighborhood has been intact. After our daughter was brutally assaulted. That's not because nothing happened to her. So, we have chosen how we are going to respond to this, and we haven't responded in a violent way. But for some reason, that isn't notable. That isn't recognized by anybody. That's just being ignored simply because, why? Because the people who did this don't want to go to jail? Why? And why should they get a free pass when they committed a crime? I mean, I'm asking the business community that, really, because you guys have the power to ask these questions to the media. Me and my husband don't. So
apparently
choosing, if the business community here in Portland is just choosing to cover up this crime, well...
Or they're just okay with it.
Or just okay with it, well, then complaining that all these other crimes are happening, it's kind of like...
Well, that's disingenuous.
It's kind of, it's disingenuous, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't really matter who's involved. We're sorry, like I said, that Nike got themselves involved with this, because that's what the evidence shows. That's another reason they're not looking into it. That's nobody's fault but their own. So, I'm a firm believer of you take responsibility for your own actions. I'm up here taking responsibility for my actions. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here doing this. This is a peaceful response. Same with my husband. That's what we've been doing, is taking responsibility for how we can respond, because that's all you can really do when you are dealing with difficult problems, is you deal with how you respond. And hopefully you will choose to respond non-violently so problems can actually be solved, because you kind of need both sides at the table to solve the problem.
And we understand that it takes patience to get down to real solutions, folks. And that's why we're still out here. You also have to be vigilant. You also have to be committed and devoted. And those are things that are just not celebrated by contemporary society. And that's a shame, because that is contributing to the degradation of the moral fiber of our society.
And you see it every day in the news. There is literally so much violence now. It's almost, you can't even take it all in. It's every day. It's all the time. And like I said, with the news ignoring stuff like this, we're not even invited to the table, even though we've been peaceful. So I know for a fact that...
And we have real issues, folks. These are real issues. Like these people really abused our daughter, okay? They really did. The hospitals really did not treat her at all. Like, they left her for dead. The courts, they ran a fraudulent trial. There's no such thing as civil child neglect, but that's what they were able to do. Okay, the police are actively covering this up. They're refusing to look into any of it, even though week after week we ask them, just by evidence of this rally, Why aren't you looking into this?
And
But these people, they don't have to do anything. There's no way to really hold these people accountable for regular citizens when the government's involved.
And we all need to start thinking about that, because it's, government accountability is a huge issue, because we're all depending on the government. And when people are going sideways and south and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, there has to be some real oversight. And I guarantee you, me and my husband have been everywhere where there's supposed to be oversight, and everybody seems to be corrupt. They're taking fat white envelopes as far as we can tell, because, again, this case is cut and dry. There's no, you cannot explain away what happened here by calling it an accident.
No,
like
you just can't.
These people
it wasn't an accident. What the hospitals did, or the courts, or the police, those were not accidents.
No, there's so many things that weren't an accident about this. It's just, pure, there's just a pure preponderance of the evidence. The problem is we can never really, get the evidence sorted out, because the media, they're using their power to shut this down, which, again, is wrong. Like, what is going on in this city? How can anybody... It's like what's going on around here, it's not even real. Like, are our public officials real? Do they take anything seriously? And when you look around the city and you just see all the homelessness, all the crime, all the drug abuse.
Irresponsible behavior after irresponsible behavior by our leadership, acting like none of this stuff is going on, like they have the leisure of ignoring actual citizens' problems.
And they do they think they have the leisure to ignore citizens' problems, because, they're getting their money, I guess, from Nike. That's where they're getting their money, and that's where they're getting their directions. And that's who, I guess, they're going to rely on to fund whatever they want to fund. Because I can tell you right now, the small business community is completely in turmoil. Maybe not up here. I don't know what's going on up here, but...
all over the city.
All over the city. People are having to close their small businesses down. Now, my theory is once all the small businesses are gone, then, everybody's dependent on Nike and Intel. And then they get to do whatever they want. And if you complain on the job, there's a tent for you. So small businesses, hear me, are really the lifeblood of any community. And the real tragedy here, I think, not just in America, but globally, is as, our larger corporations grew and moved their operations offshore, they've been running these slave operations, and people can't even start their own businesses where they are, because they're not getting paid anything for all the work that they're doing. So, this model that we have here in America hasn't been able to spread globally, and people haven't been able to get out of poverty and really help themselves, because, you have these multinational corporations like Nike, like I said, just running slave operations while the American public turns the other way because, okay, fine, we're getting cheaper product, but we are also supporting a global slave system. And so I want to talk about that because, our multinational corporations, their behavior abroad matters. Their behavior abroad matters, and their behavior here matters. And if we're going to allow them to abuse employees here, and, the media is not going to report on it, that's the easiest way to shut anybody down, right? Nobody knows about them.
Just like the article that my wife just read about the women who are fighting for their rights at Nike, they're not getting a lot of publicity.
No.
There's a lot of people involved, and that's the only reason why they've gotten a smidgen of attention in the media, but for the most part, these women are being ignored.
And we know what, and that, Nike is using a tactic, the same tactic they used with our families, which is they bleed you. They bleed you. They'll draw this out for 10 years if they have to, and they had the judiciary behind them. So that's fascism, everybody. That's what happens. That's corporate fascism. That's what we have here in America today. Because primarily our elected officials are beholden to the corporations. They don't care about the people anymore. And that's just where we're at. So I really think that, we need to keep digging and dialing down into this and asking these questions. Me and my husband, we exist. Our issues exist.
They're real.
My book is out there for anybody to read.
It's full of facts, folks. You can just read it if you want to know what actually happened. It's Justice for Qadira,
Qadira. Justice for Qadira. And it's on Amazon. And I wrote it myself under duress. I was working like 50 hours a week when I wrote that book, but I wanted to catalog what happened to our family, because it's not something that should even happen. What happened to our family is not something that should be able to happen on American soil, because we have all these systems set up. This isn't Russia. This isn't China. This isn't Iran. But I don't know, more and more, you know, our judicial system is starting to behave in that way, which is, you know, they just make the rules and you don't really have rights.
Yeah, you don't get to really question them, or there's no way to really hold them accountable, and that's a dangerous place to be for any society.
Right. When a judge can just, you know, when a company can just write a judge, you know, $1 million check or whatever, because that's couch change for them, that's a problem.
That's
right?
a problem, and then the judge is has to do what they say, basically. You know what I'm saying? We can't have a system. We need to talk about the foundation of our system, because our social systems are disintegrating. No, sir, I won't shut the fuck up.
Calm down.
Why don't you come here and make me shut up?
Yeah, right.
I'm sick and tired of you cowards that drive by, okay, and not willing to stop and have a conversation.
Yeah, because we're willing to have a conversation. I mean, we've been out here, and we can have a conversation without putting hands on somebody, unlike everybody else.
No, but you have all these cowards that want to drive by and scream obscenities out of their window as they're driving by 60 miles an hour.
It's ridiculous, and he shouldn't even have been going that fast up here. It's just disrespectful.
No, we're not going to shut up, people. Our society is in peril.
And we need to talk about it, because these are the agreements we've made here in this country, and they are not being respected. Okay? Another issue we need to talk about is doctors lying. Now, for me and my husband, I'm sorry. These doctors lied straight to our face. So don't tell me that doctors cannot be paid to lie to patients. I see a lot of people now getting all these extreme surgeries, going on these hormones, doing all this stuff, turning themselves into all kinds of creatures and whatnot, that and the third, via surgery from these corrupt doctors that'll just do anything to anybody for some cash. So we need to start talking about that, because it's destroying our society.
Folks, what is happening to the integrity of our society? It is literally disintegrating right before our eyes.
And I get it. You know, we get everybody's using the money, but this is all about the money, and just get yours and just get paid. And, you know, the whole idea of do no harm is out the window. It's more like do harm, collect your fat white envelope, and then just keep it moving, because that's the goal. And that's what I see here, especially in America, such reverence to these greedy, you know, corporate oligarchs who are running slave operations overseas and treating employees here like crap.
Thanks, Mr. Ice Cream Man.
You're the one
Thank you,
being
Mr.
annoying.
Ice Cream Man.
You're the one being
Thank you very
annoying.
much, Mr. Ice Cream Man. I'm
Yeah,
glad
he
to see you
says-
coming by,
he
paying
says-
us some attention.
He says,
Thank you, Mr. Ice Cream Man.
He says, be quiet about child abuse, because he's probably engaged in it. You know, again, Oregon is a haven for sex offenders, and there's a big reason for that, because you have people behind the scenes all the way up to our Attorney General. I mean, shame on Ellen Rosenblum. I'll say it again. I mean, I have document evidence. She gave these abusers money. Okay, so she's in on it, and I don't know.
Made sure that nobody was looking into this.
She could be another Ghislaine Maxwell, but we'll never know, because law enforcement, you know, is sitting here, you know, protecting such filth, and it doesn't help anything. It's not helping to improve the city. The city's going downhill every single day. Me and my husband, we'd like to turn it around, but like, again, as citizens, we're not even offered a seat at the table. We're not even, these people won't even talk to us about what they did. They don't want to discuss it. And it's very interesting. They're just opting for, they don't get to get charged with a crime. So, you know, the fact that all these crimes are being committed in the city and nothing's being done about it, well, I sympathize with everybody that's going through that, because we've been put through it too. You know, and that is why the system needs to change. Because it's not a working system. And that is, you know, the main issue here. We do not have a working system. So then you see people getting very, very frustrated and going and gunning each other down all the time.
Just feeling hopeless, folks, because we are not getting anything done. We're not getting done what we need to be getting done as a society. Like, what's the point of having a civilization if nobody's going to be civil?
Exactly. I mean, if nobody's interested in being civilized, if we're not actually interested in adhering to the laws that our lawmakers make. I like the lawmakers too, because they're always making laws. They have nothing better to do, and most of these laws aren't being followed. So what's
they just get thrown out the window.
It's not leading to a better situation on the ground. People are being, attacked, gunned down. I mean, the things that are going on in our society, especially in America, just the amount of mass shootings we've had since the beginning of the year. That is the go-to response nowadays. Get a gun somebody down. But I understand people, they want to solve their issues now. And so that's how they get their gratification. Me and my husband, we've been fighting for 16 years just to get our public officials to engage in an appropriate manner. They know nothing but violence. They want violence to be the go-to in our culture, in our society, and that's how the country's being destroyed.
Yeah, because, folks, what they have done to us is they are trying to drive us to violence by ignoring us, by disregarding our issues, by treating us like they've been treating us, and you've been witness to it.
Yeah.
Okay? These people want us to go get a gun and shoot somebody down.
They do.
Because that's the way that they can control us.
Exactly.
Okay? That's the way they can shut us down. They could throw us in prison, and we won't have a voice then.
And that's the tactic here. So I hope people don't go along with it, because that is what's happening right now. Is your leadership is trying to frustrate you to violence on either side of the aisle. Really, it's very disgusting. While they work together to pretty much destroy what's here, they have all their money from the corporations now. They don't need any of these small businesses, and they're not going to be out here fighting for you. And if you think companies like Nike are your friend, they're not. I mean, the fact of the matter is, think what you want. Nike's been hiding a whole lot. I mean, we were back and forth with Nike for, like 14 years before we were completely, thrown out of court and all this and that. And we were representing ourselves, so we expected nothing less. But still, it wasn't that we didn't prove our case. It's just these multinational corporations, they do what they want. When you're dealing with billionaires, they do what they want. They are not beholden to any laws, and they can do a lot of damage, especially when the public is, thinking like, I don't know why people here in America think that these companies are their friend. They're not your friend. They don't care about you. And the wealthy people running them, they're not your friend. They don't want to help you. So that's a big issue. Huh?
Yes, sir.
If you want to badmouth Nike, you should mention Phil Knight spent the better part of $5 million trying to elect a governor who would cut minimum wage, undercuts Medicare and Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
That's Phil Knight.
Yeah, that's Phil Knight for you, yeah.
We know he's nobody's uncle, actually. No.
He's not a good guy.
I wish you'd mention that.
Do you want to mention it?
You certainly
can. Because you said it much better than I could.
That's all right.
No, he was just talking about how Phil Knight tried to get a governor elected, spent $5 million trying to get a governor elected that was going to cut worker protections. That doesn't surprise me.
That's right.
That doesn't surprise me, because when you
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. When you see how he treats his employees overseas, you have to take note of that. And I know that,
Well, there's a lawsuit right now by employees at Nike saying that the men are getting much more pay than the women.
Yep, I was just talking about that.
My wife just read the article just earlier in this protest. So we know what's really going on here. And the fact that nobody's willing to really address it or talk about it.
To be out in public with the uniforms on?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think they're okay.
Thank you for your service, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Go kill somebody somewhere else.
No, I think they're just trying to have a day.
Folks, we're out here. We appreciate you being out here.
Are you in support of us sending tanks?
No,
absolutely not.
No, I'm not in support of any war.
As a matter of fact, we just heard that our country's going broke, and what does Biden do? We're gonna raise the debt limit, raise the debt ceiling so we can fund more war, not take care of the people here on our own soil, not house the homeless, not feed the starving people, or help people actually here.
Or just even helping people just live their lives. I mean, that is where, that's where the money should be going. But no, it all goes to killing people. And then on the back end, this country is going completely into the toilet because we're losing our small businesses.
This country's not going broke.
This might be him.
It's not going broke?
No,
This might be him. I don't know.
They raised the taxes just a tiny bit on the super rich. Everybody in this country could get out of it.
Sure.
Right,
But they're not going
They're
to.
not going to.
No.
It's not because we're going broke.
Right.
No.
It's because the people with the
Well, we
money
will if-
own the Congress.
This
Well,
is true.
we
They
will-
do. They own the Congress.
We will go broke. We will go broke if we continue funding these wars. We'll just go broke. And with no small businesses, people here won't have jobs because Nike's not really employing a lot of people here on U.S. soil.
Thank you, sir, for your commentary.
Yes, thank you. So, most of their employees, they've got the slaves in China. They've got, other people in other areas where they're paying hardly nothing. So those people are never going to get out of poverty and so on and so forth.
Okay. Folks, we're going to keep on getting out here and telling you like we see it, okay? And hopefully at some point, because, we are looking around. I don't think that we're having the same experience that everybody else is having with our society, because we've actually seen the underbelly of the beast, and it's gross, folks. It's nasty. It's worse than you can imagine.
But we can't.
And we're out here. We're trying to help you understand what it actually is, so that we can get. Right now, we're behind the ball on this thing, on correcting the path of our society. So we're out here trying to get ahead of this ball because it's out of control. We're in a tailspin in this country, on the globe, actually. As a race of beings, we're not getting done what we need to be getting done, and that's just simply taking care of people. So if we can't get to this understanding that we need to be taking care of each other and all of the life here on this planet, which somehow the conversation never leads to that, right? It's always, it always winds up as some kind of monetary conversation, when that is not what we should be focused on. We should be focused on taking care of people, and we have the means to do that. We just we're lacking the will.
It's because it would also, if we had a better, it's about changing the goal. The goal can't just be making money for every person in the world. We need to have an actual goal. And the goal should be, making a decent environment down here for people to live. And really, living on planet Earth today, it's very difficult. It's chaotic. That is why people are losing their minds and gunning people down. We have this whole, internet and social media and all of this now. People are getting their news, right away. Everything is just
we're
in your
more
face all the
connected
time.
than ever, and we are less connected than ever, actually.
Well, I think it's just a lot for our brains to sort out all the time. And I even understand our case is a lot for people to sort out. But what the issue here is, when you have leaders that don't lead you to actually solve problems at all, they ignore problems, they're just pushing agendas, which, I think we can really see here in Oregon, because me and my husband are out here, and our authorities are just insolently ignoring us, because what they're basically saying to the public is they have all the answers, and just because they, screwed this up doesn't mean they're going to screw everything else up. I disagree, because they've been screwing everything up. Ever since our daughter was burned in 2007 to now, you have watched the city every year incrementally go down. Now, for me and my husband, we believe God saved our daughter. And I don't think that anybody can say any different, because she was mortally wounded and she lived with no treatment. So, I think that this is a situation where we've got some bad karma, and we do need to face it, and we need to talk about this. And the reason our elected officials don't like talking to me and my husband is they know it's not just about our daughter. It's about everything that's going on around here. It's just, nonsense. And people are only here for a limited time. You only get maybe 100 years from life, from the gift of life. Maybe give or take 100 years if
Here
you're
on
lucky.
this planet.
And you cannot have people who are in leadership roles just screwing around. and making everybody crazy and destroying the environment. And that is something that we're dealing with. But anyway, we're going to shut it down because I've got some things to do today, but we will always appear on this corner no matter what, and week after week after week.
As long as it takes, folks.
We're going to keep having the hard conversations. We are not going to back down from this conversation. We are looking forward to the day that when the people who are involved in this explain themselves, because this is a case of many elected officials.
Oh, you are Heidi's great uncle.
Oh,
nice
hey,
to meet you.
Meet you. I hear so much about
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you grab the water, babe?
Brandis' sister.
Yeah, I'm Corellin. She's been a great support to me. She's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Can you grab that? Water. Anyway, we're going to shut it down, and we'll see everybody next week. Just think about what we said, everybody. We're up here. You know what's going on. If you can get a copy of my book, please, you can get it, read it.
Just understand where you are.
And note that I did the best job I could with that book in terms of, it's really more of a timeline. That's what I pretty much wrote it for. I was under so much, duress when this was going on. I just wanted to make sure that it was all recorded like in story form, and I could put it out there and people could know what was happening.
Somehow try to make this information digestible for the general public, because what happened to us was so intricate and complicated, and it had so many moving parts. My wife really did a good job of just basically summing up, our experience, and it's been it's been a healthy thing for us, and getting out here and doing these rallies has been very healthy for us, because it's important that we are communicating what we understand about the society, and unfortunately that is painting a disturbing picture that nobody really wants to deal with. But folks, we have to deal with it.
And we can't stop things.
This is a circumstance that we are experiencing, not just as a community, not just as a nation, but as a global race of beings. And we have to get a hold of it so that we can start directing ourselves into productive ways of moving forward. And that's not going to happen.
Instead of people, being thrown out in the streets, I see that Vacasa just laid off a bunch of Portland employees. So
all these corporations,
more people are headed to the streets, and eventually, what I'm assuming is they'll be setting up the camps, because every time money goes towards the homeless situation, it just disappears, right? Nobody really gets the help they need, and more people pile into the streets. And we need to start getting a handle on that, because the environment everywhere is deteriorating, and most of us don't live in gated communities. Most of us are out and about in the world every day, and we need the world to be a safe place, and we're depending on others to not respond violently to circumstances so that people can at least be physically safe, when they're out and about in the world. So that is something we're working for here.
Depending on our leaders to be responsible, which is something that is severely lacking in our society right now, is this overall disregard for the fact that we're not caring for people.
That we just don't
in any genuine or proper or appropriate manner, and it's not okay.
Yeah, and this is just proof of that. And the fact that this has been ignored for so long, that's even more proof of that. So,
folks, we're going to leave you with this.
We're going to leave you with this, and then we're going to get out of here.
But we're going to be back next week. And for every single week, we're going to keep on coming out and telling you that, first of all, this is still going on. Like, this is still an actual circumstance that our community is dealing with, okay, or not dealing with.
Right.
But once again, folks, it's important that we understand why we're here, because that's something that's getting lost in translation. Folks, we're here to care about each other. We're here to care about our human brothers and sisters, okay, first. And what you'll realize is that means taking care of this entire planet. But we have to start with us first. We have to start with us recognizing what is actually valuable. Folks, it's us. It's our actual lives. It's not money. It's not gold or silver. It's not cryptocurrency. It's not no new BRICS system or any kind of resources that they want to try and come up with. Folks, it is our lives that matter. That's what actually matters to society. The fact that we are getting to luxuriate and ignore that and deny that fact that's the impossible situation for us right now, because we can't continue to ignore the fact that we are what is actually valuable in our society. And if we keep on throwing ourselves away like garbage on the side of the street, we're not going to get to that point where we're actually genuinely taking care of each other.
I mean, you just don't see this in the natural world or the animal world. Human beings are throwing human beings out to die. It's a really strange thing for us to be doing as a species. It needs to stop. We need to adhere to the agreements we're making with one another. There's a lot to set straight here. There's a lot to be unpacked in this case, and we're just going to keep on unpacking it week after week after week. And, even if it takes 10, 15 years, however long, till the day we die, we're going to stick at it. But let's do the affirmation and get out of here.
Folks, here's the affirmation. This is what you need to understand, okay? You are the value. I am the value.
We are
the value.
So it goes, I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. So wait a minute. Just like they tell you when you're on a plane to put your, mask on first when you're going down, you got to get a hold of yourself first. So that means don't pick up a gun. That means tell somebody about this rally, because you should be talking to people about a peaceful protest. You are what is valuable. Your voice matters. You know what I'm saying? So deal with you first, then, reach out to other people, because together, when we can come together, then we can really create a much better environment. And we need to hold our leaders accountable for that not being their goal, because that's not their goal. The goal of our leadership right now is just to get money.
It's just to make money, folks.
And they need to be held accountable for that. Nike has a lot they need to be held accountable for. I'm really tired of the media covering up for them. But, eventually all things do come to light, and we do believe that this will as well. So thank you, Multnomah Village. We'll see you next week for week 83. God bless.
Thank you, Multnomah Village.
What area code was it from?
I need to see my phone.